1, 2, 3, 4 years, or if that's even possible. And we're opening up a can of worms with the many problems in that building. So I have to question that when we're talking multi-million-dollar projects.
Thank you, Councillor Bottomley. Chief, go ahead.
As I said when you came and saw me the other day, and I appreciate you and Councilor DeSortis for coming in. I appreciate that. Regardless, if you're looking at 3 years out with this total, you have every right to say no every year, right? This is what we talked about. You can say no every year. However, there are certain things that, regardless if you say no to the future years, need to be done now. The garage has to be done now. The fencing has to be done now. There's going to be obviously issues with the parking lot when that garage has to be done now. We have issues with the locker rooms now. The dispatch room now. That's not going away, regardless if we do a $100,000 study. That's what this initial amount of money will be used for. It also doesn't mean you give me a blank check for 1.3 million and I get to sit on it. We still have to have if an architect comes back and says, look, you're looking at $10 million for what you're looking to do, then all right, you spent the 100 grand and the rest of the money doesn't get spent, and it's right back with you. This is there because I still think that's a low number for what we're looking to do, but at least you could address some things that aren't going away. The water coming off the mountain isn't going away. We're not moving in the next, I don't know how long. I'll probably be retired by the time that we move to a PD. I pretty much can guarantee you I'll be retired by the time we go to a PD. But those things aren't changing. So that's what this pool of money is for. I'm not just spending it frivolously. I want an architect to tell me what can we do with X amount of money we have right now to deal with those problems we know we have right now. Those aren't changing. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I think everyone, I'm going to speak for the committee. I think we understand that particular piece, that it's not going to go away and there are immediate issues that do need to be addressed. I want to reach out back to Liz for a minute. Liz, I have a couple questions for you. Can I ask?
Sure.
Okay. So I would like to talk to you on a theory. If there is a lesser amount that comes forward or is voted forward, and we receive a architectural report in 4 months or whatever, can the mayor reintroduce another piece of the borrowing to be funded as per what the architect is saying? For instance, what the chief just mentioned, maybe the architect comes back and says it's going to cost $10 million. Then that would indicate to the mayor, to us, that we'd have to beef up the borrowing piece at this point in order to get things accomplished, if in fact that was the decision that happened. Is it legal? Is it possible to do that?
It is possible. It would have to go through you'd have to hold a special capital committee, because it does need to go through the capital committee, bond council, make sure of those, make sure that capital committee has voted on it. So, and it doesn't mean you couldn't hold a special capital committee meeting. However, again, we all know that like one financial order is just about 3 months, depending on the timing, minimum 2.5 months,
Right.
3 months to get something through. And so I would go back to what you initially spoke of about reasonable and something that people felt comfortable with. Did you have another question?
Well, I was, you were talking about the fact that we'd have to call together another capital committee. My question was, if this amount of money gets borrowed tonight, how soon will the borrowing be in place? By the first of the fiscal year, so it would be the first of the fiscal year that the bids would go out for an architect or anything else that have to happen with the police department. Is that correct?
If authorized, this is for 22. But know that we don't, this is an authorization. It's not an actual borrowing.
Borrowing, right.
There's a little distinction there. So what happens in the interim is that as expenses are incurred, the treasurer would do some short-term borrowing. So that's possible. And you also, when it's borrowing, I would answer you differently if it was from stabilization or another source, but you do have on the table 100,000 from stable capital. That is there.
Right.
You know, it's not a borrowing.
Right. Yeah, I have one more question for Liz, if I may. I wanted to, if you can confirm for us, if a borrowing remains unused, okay, vis-a-vis what was borrowed for the past couple of years for the schools, and the authorities nothing is acted upon, who has the authority to rescind the borrowing?
The council votes on it via an financial order submitted by the mayor. So the mayor submits the order to rescind the authorization, is presented to city council, and city council votes on it to rescind the authorization.
So if the mayor does not want to rescind the authorization, the council has no, there is no option for them at that point.
That's a correct statement. All financial orders come from the mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Chief, I know you wanted to speak. You had your hand up, so go ahead.
I was more a question for Liz. I put it in the just a chat to her. My understanding, if the 100 grand is coming out of stabilization, we wouldn't borrow until that report comes back.
Correct.
Because if that report came back and said it's going to be this and this is how the breakdown is going to be, then we may not be able to do that. So my understanding is we would do this, you know, even if you approve it tonight, it doesn't necessarily mean we can actually do it. The architect may come back and say, we can't do what you're asking. This is what it's going to be. So we'd have to go back to the table. But if it came back, and my feeling is we have the architect do the overall project and we say, look, right now, this is all we have, the 1.2 after the 100 comes out. What can we do for that 1.2? And is it the fencing, the this, the that? That's what we then borrow for and we take care of. But the architect may come back and say, look, this is a lost cause. You're looking at, just for even what you're talking about, you're looking at, you know, $2 million. Well, that's a problem, right? So I don't see the issue with actually voting yes for this when you still have control over what it is. If you want to vote no because you don't think these projects or the money is valuable, that's a different story. I understand that as far as your job as a council, but I'm looking at it saying, what can I do for this? If that's not possible, I'm not just getting $1.3 million in my bank account and spending it how I want. I guess that's how I look at it.
Liz, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to piggyback on that, is in terms of controls. You are authorizing it for something specific. It can only be spent on that. So I just want to give you that assurance. That's the way it works. That's the way bond counsel does. We get audited on all this. So that is how it will play out. It needs to be spent on what the items is stated for. You know, we've come back to you and said, I recall one for the intercom system at the school. We had to come back and vote that it be wireless system. So it's very specific on what it may be used for.
The language change was
The language,
necessary.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay. All right, everybody, this is last chance because we're at 6:15 and we have a council meeting. We only got another half an hour to go. I will ask for a final time if there are any more questions or comments from Ways and Means, the chief, the mayor, or our finance director.
I had another comment, Councilor Forgy.
I'm sorry, Ginny, I'm not seeing you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
it's okay. I just wanted to say that I heard everything that Councilor Jarvis said, and it was actually because of the tour that I took that I could see the things that we'd even talked about fixing weren't some other larger issues that I was seeing. And I feel as if I have an obligation to be looking at the big picture of this. And there were a lot of things there. I feel like we have to, the very first thing we have to do is to have somebody come in and look and say, is this feasible? Because I saw 4 parts that all absolutely. I got what Councilor Jarvis said, I heard what the chief said, and I saw with my own eyes. But I think the first thing that we should have started with, and I will still say that, is to look and say, is this possible in this building? So that's what I would vote. That's all that I would vote for, because I saw a lot of things. And I want to also say what we don't say often enough is thank you for Chief, you're there, for you and everybody that's out there doing that job. You matter to me and to all of us, and I want everybody to be in a building that's safe. I saw things in the clerk's office that concerned me, safety-wise. But our job is a financial decision, and this one didn't sound like a sound one to me because of the things that I said, and I'll be silent. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to ask Clerk Scott.
Yeah, Chris, I just had one more question. Just a quick
Okay,
one. Just a real quick one.
just one, Ed.
I'm sorry, I was raising my hand. Maybe I'm not on the screen. I just want to make sure that when this goes to full council, we can this can be amended, right, with a different amendment at council. Maybe Chris. Maybe Chris, I don't know who can answer that for me, but it'll come as a negative recommendation, obviously, from what I'm hearing, except for one vote. Then it could this amount be amended on council floor? I see Liz shaking her head. Yes, that was the only question I had. I know I've been long-winded, so I will shut up.
Yes, it can be amended. Yes. Okay, now we're going to do a roll call vote. And so Clerk Scott, would you do the honors, please?
Certainly. Councilor Forgy.
Although I think there should be a lesser amount, I'm going to send the full amount forward to the council, so I vote yes.
Councilor Jarvis.
Yes.
Councilor Disorder.
No.
Councilor Bottomley.
No.
Councilor Mayo.
No.
3 no, 2 yes. The motion fails for a recommendation.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't think we have any other business at this evening. I do want to remind Ways and Means members that we have a meeting at 7 tonight. We also have another meeting tomorrow evening at 5:30, which will be the start of the operating budget. We will be talking with the mayor and finance tomorrow evening.
Counselor Forgy, Chief
Yeah.
Hague has his hand up.
I just have a general question. Do you want me a FaceTime for the 7 o'clock, or will I have any ability to speak, or is it just counselors? That's not necessarily for you, Chairperson. I'm just
That's really up to our, that would be up to our president. Rick.
But if they ask, I would have the ability to speak. That's all I'm asking. I just want to know. So I want to make sure I'm there.
Right.
I think your presence would be welcome, Chief Hague.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I needed. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where was I? We had a meeting tomorrow night for our operating piece. And we also are meeting again as per our agenda on the 27th at 5:30. I believe that's correct. Is that correct, Kathy?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Disorder.
Okay,
Second,
Rodney.
okay. All in favor, so indicate. Aye. I'm glad that this part's over.
I think we all are.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you all very much. You are wonderful to work with. I know this has not been easy, but I appreciate your honesty, your thoughtfulness, and you're a great committee. So thank you very much to everyone. We will see you at 7.
The time.